A second impeachment of President Trump appears imminent as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle press him to step down as soon as possible. The House will vote tomorrow on a resolution demanding Vice President Mike Pence convene the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. Doing so would remove the president's powers, likely for the remainder of his term. Republicans blocked the move from being considered with unanimous consent. If Mr. Pence does not do so within 24 hours, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Congress will move forward with impeachment. At least 210 lawmakers are endorsing one article of impeachment. The charge, an incitement of insurrection. The article is likely to go to a vote as early as tomorrow. Speaker Pelosi grew emotional when talking to 60 Minutes' Leslie Stahl about the riots.
Universally accepted that what happened was a terrible, terrible violation of the Capitol, of the first branch of government, the legislative branch, by the President of the United States.
Hey family, welcome back. Jack with you once again. House Democrats have filed coordinated articles of impeachment against Trump and his entire cabinet simultaneously. An unprecedented constitutional move that shakes the foundations of the federal government. It's not routine partisan warfare. It's a full-scale reckoning aimed at every top official at once. Let me tell you exactly what is happening right now, because the scope of this is almost impossible to comprehend. Representative John Larson has filed 13 separate articles of impeachment against Trump. 13, not one or two symbolic gestures. 13 detailed, specific, evidence-based articles covering multiple serious constitutional violations. The articles accuse Trump of circumventing Congress's constitutional war powers regarding Iran.
At least 6 people are dead following last week's act of domestic terrorism, among them a Capitol Police officer, 42-year-old Brian Sicknick. He was attacked by the rioters. Authorities have charged at least 19 people with federal crimes related to the assault on the Capitol. We have not heard from President Trump since social media companies suspended his accounts late last week. The White House says he will speak today, but not about the violence he helped spark. Instead, sources tell CBS News he will focus instead on big tech and what he believes his administration has accomplished. CBS News Chief Congressional Correspondent Nancy Cordes joins me now from Capitol Hill. Hi, Nancy. So House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn has suggested proceedings could wait until after the first 100 days of President-elect Biden's term. How have lawmakers begun setting the impeachment process in motion today? And do they expect any action on the 25th Amendment from Vice President Pence?
Well, I can tell you that there are a number of House Democrats who are pushing back.
They accuse him of militarizing domestic law enforcement to suppress protesters and political opponents. They accuse him of abusing detention and deportation powers based on race, ethnicity, and political opposition. These are not frivolous accusations. These are serious constitutional charges backed by documented evidence and specific incidents. But that is only the beginning of this story. Because while Democrats are moving against Trump directly, they are simultaneously filing impeachment articles against his cabinet officials. This is a coordinated removal effort. This is about cleaning house from the top down. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem faces impeachment over illegal government contracts and blatant misuse of office.
Who I have spoken to who say they can't wait 100 days, that actually, despite what Congressman Clyburn said on TV yesterday, they actually want to move right away. They want to hold this vote this week, assuming that there is no response from the vice president to the 25th Amendment resolution, which is expected to pass tomorrow. And they'll pass this impeachment resolution. And I can tell you that they do now have the numbers to pass it, according to Congressman Ted Lieu. He's one of the authors of this impeachment resolution. I spoke to him a short time ago. He said between the co-sponsors who have now signed on to the resolution, about 210 of them, and other Democrats who haven't signed on to be a co-sponsor but who have told him verbally that they will support it, he says they now have the votes they need to pass a second impeachment resolution against President Trump. And he says that it is the strong belief of many Democrats that they should then send those articles immediately to the Senate for a trial, not to wait for 100 days, as Whip Clyburn has been advocating. And that may create something of a split in the Democratic Party. It may mean that President-elect Biden's cabinet nominees will have to wait a little bit longer to get confirmed.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth faces impeachment over classified information mishandling and alleged war crimes. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. faces impeachment over abuse of authority and dangerous public health policies. Multiple cabinet officials are facing removal at the exact same time Trump is facing impeachment. Think about what this means. This is not just about removing one president. This is about removing an entire administration. This is about Congress declaring that not just the president, but his entire team is unfit to serve. This is unprecedented. This has never happened before in American history. Not during Watergate, not during any other constitutional crisis. Congress is essentially saying that the entire executive branch leadership must go.
But Congressman Liu told me that it's the strong belief of many in the House Democratic Caucus that this can't wait and that it has to be addressed now.
All right, so let's talk about then what happens next, because of course then it goes to the Senate. And Nancy, we've seen at least 2 Republican senators, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski and Pennsylvania's Pat Toomey, call for the president's resignation. So do Democrats believe Republicans will join with them on this vote, even if it doesn't ultimately lead to Mr. Trump's removal in the next 9 days? Because resignation is one thing. They
Right.
fell short of saying they would support impeachment.
Part of the reason that House Democrats think that this can't wait, they feel that at this moment, this is the moment to act, because you've got Democrats and Republicans alike who are furious with this president, and that perhaps there are Republicans who normally wouldn't want to cross either the president or his base, who might be willing to take a difficult vote now. But who knows how those same Republicans will feel a few months from now when the pressure has cooled, when this president is long gone from public office. So that's why House Democrats think it is important to act. Yes, you would need.
The trigger for this explosive action was Trump's explicit public threats against Iran. Trump said he would obliterate a whole civilization. He threatened to attack Iran in ways that could kill millions of innocent people. He was planning military strikes without congressional authorization. And here is the constitutional problem. The Constitution explicitly gives Congress the power to declare war. The president cannot unilaterally start wars on his own authority. But Trump threatened to do exactly that. He was planning to violate the Constitution by starting a war without authorization. And Congress is responding by filing impeachment articles immediately.
If all 50 Democrats vote yes, you would need about 16 Republicans to vote yes as well, because don't forget, it takes 2/3 of the Senate to vote to remove a president, which, at the point that they took that vote, he probably would have already left office, but it would also mean he wouldn't be able to run again, which might be a powerful motivator for some Republican senators.
Right. That's a very good point, one that I haven't heard discussed too much. Is that some of these senators obviously have presidential ambitions themselves, and, perhaps removing Mr. Trump from the field would work to their advantage in that regard as well.
Right, and it's not just that. It's the fact that if this president is intent on running again in 4 years, then that kind of hangs like a scepter over everything that Senate Republicans do for the next 4 years. It's one thing if he leaves office and goes back into private life, but if he is vowing to run again and his supporters are all activated on his behalf, that really limits the wiggle room for a lot of Senate Republicans who would very much like to turn the page from the Trump era. So
Representative Larson's articles explicitly accuse Trump of circumventing Congress's constitutional war powers on Iran completely and repeatedly. The articles cite specific threats and statements Trump made. They document the planning for military action that never received congressional approval. They lay out the constitutional violations in precise legal language. These are not political attacks. These are constitutional charges grounded in the text of the Constitution itself. The second set of articles concerns militarization of domestic law enforcement for political purposes. Trump has used federal law enforcement to suppress protesters and political opponents. He has used federal agents to crack down on people who oppose him politically. He has militarized the federal government to accomplish his political goals. Law enforcement is supposed to be apolitical and neutral, but Trump weaponized federal law enforcement. He used federal agents as his personal police force. He used the military against American civilians. He used law enforcement to arrest political opponents. This is abuse of power and violation of the Constitution. The third set of articles concerns detention and deportation based on protected characteristics like race and ethnicity. Trump has used immigration enforcement to target specific ethnic groups deliberately. He has implemented racial discrimination in immigration enforcement systematically. Immigration enforcement cannot be based on race or ethnicity or political affiliation. But Trump implemented policies that did exactly that. He targeted specific groups for detention and deportation based on their race and ethnicity and political beliefs. This is constitutional violation on a massive scale. The fourth set of articles concerns Trump's threat to use the Insurrection Act to deploy the military domestically. Trump threatened to use active-duty military to suppress protests. He threatened to declare martial law. He threatened to override the constitutional protections for civilians. This is the most dangerous threat of all. Trump wanted to use the military against American citizens. These articles address this explicitly, and the articles are paired with explicit calls for the 25th Amendment removal. The 25th Amendment allows a vice president and cabinet to declare the president unable to discharge his duties. This is the constitutional mechanism for removing an unfit president if he is incapacitated or unfit to serve. Congress is essentially saying that Trump is unfit to be president. Congress is saying that the cabinet should consider removing him through the 25th Amendment. Congress is using every constitutional tool available. Now let me tell you about the cabinet officials facing removal. Kristi Noem faces impeachment for allegedly awarding illegal government contracts to people and companies close to her. She faces impeachment for misuse of her office to enrich allies and friends. She allegedly used her position to benefit people and companies close to her personally. Cabinet officials cannot use their positions for personal enrichment or to benefit allies. Noem allegedly did exactly that repeatedly. The article cites specific contracts and beneficiaries. Pete Hegseth faces impeachment over his handling of classified information and alleged war crimes. He allegedly mishandled classified documents while serving as defense secretary. He allegedly was involved in military operations that violated international law. He is accused of allowing or ordering operations that constitute war crimes. He allegedly failed to protect classified information. He allegedly ordered military strikes that kill civilians deliberately. These are serious allegations that warrant removal from office. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. faces impeachment over public health policy and abuse of authority in his position as health secretary. He allegedly used his office to implement policies that harm public health deliberately. He allegedly prioritized ideology over science in health policy decisions. He allegedly abused his authority to implement policies that were not in the public interest. He allegedly suppressed scientific research that contradicted his views. He allegedly implemented policies that hurt vulnerable populations. These are serious allegations of abuse of power. Over 70 Democratic lawmakers are publicly calling for Trump's removal from office. 70. That is more than the number needed to impeach in the House. That is more than the number needed to pass articles to the Senate. Democrats have the votes to impeach Trump on these articles. Democrats have the votes to remove Trump's cabinet officials. Democrats are moving toward actually using impeachment as it was intended to be used to remove officials who are unfit. Let me dig deeper into what these impeachment articles actually say and why they are so serious. Because this is not just partisan attack or political theater. These articles are based on specific constitutional violations and documented abuses of power. Representative John Larson is a serious legislator. He is not filing frivolous articles. He is filing articles based on documented violations of law and the Constitution. These articles have substance and evidence. The first set of articles against Trump concern war powers and constitutional authority of Congress over war. The Constitution explicitly gives Congress the power to declare war. Congress is the branch that has the constitutional authority to decide whether the United States goes to war. The president cannot unilaterally declare war or start military operations. But Trump threatened to attack Iran without congressional authorization. Trump said he would obliterate a whole civilization. Trump was planning military strikes that could kill millions of innocent people. Congress never approved any of this action. Congress never authorized military action against Iran. Trump was planning to violate the Constitution by starting a war without authorization. This is exactly what the articles address. These articles cite the Constitution directly. These articles are grounded in constitutional law. The second set of articles concerns militarization of domestic law enforcement for political purposes. Trump has used federal law enforcement to suppress protesters and political opponents. Trump has used federal agents to crack down on people who oppose him politically. Trump has militarized the federal government to accomplish his political goals. This is a violation of federal law and constitutional rights. Law enforcement is supposed to be apolitical and neutral. Law enforcement is not supposed to be used as a political weapon. But Trump weaponized federal law enforcement. Trump used federal agents as his personal police force. Trump used the military against American civilians. Trump used law enforcement to arrest political opponents. This is abuse of power and violation of the Constitution. The third set of articles concerns detention and deportation, based on protected characteristics like race and ethnicity. Trump has used immigration enforcement to target specific ethnic groups deliberately. Trump has used immigration enforcement to target people based on political opposition and beliefs. Trump has implemented racial discrimination in immigration enforcement systematically. This is unconstitutional and illegal. Immigration enforcement cannot be based on race or ethnicity or political affiliation, but Trump implemented policies that did exactly that. Trump targeted specific groups for detention and deportation based on their race and ethnicity and political beliefs. This is constitutional violation on a massive scale. These articles cite specific cases and examples. The fourth set of articles concerns Trump's threat to use the Insurrection Act to deploy the military domestically. Trump threatened to use active duty military to suppress protests. Trump threatened to declare martial law. Trump threatened to override the constitutional protections for civilians. This is the most dangerous threat of all. Trump wanted to use the military against American citizens. These articles address this explicitly, and these articles are paired with explicit calls for the 25th Amendment removal. The 25th Amendment allows a vice president and cabinet to declare the president unable to discharge his duties. This is the constitutional mechanism for removing an unfit president if he is incapacitated or unfit to serve. Congress is essentially saying that Trump is unfit to be president. Congress is saying that the cabinet should consider removing him through the 25th Amendment. Congress is using every constitutional tool available to address what it sees as a dangerous president. Congress is not holding back. Now let me talk about what all of this means for Trump and his administration and what is going to happen next in Congress and in the courts. These impeachment articles against Trump over Iran threats are constitutional and serious and well-grounded in law. Trump threatened to attack Iran without congressional authorization. This violates the Constitution. Congress has the constitutional power to declare war. The president cannot unilaterally declare war on his own. Trump was planning to do exactly that. These articles are justified. These articles are constitutional, and if passed, they would be grounds for removing Trump from office. The Senate would have to convict him. The multiple articles covering Trump's abuse of power show a clear pattern of unconstitutional conduct throughout his presidency and administration. Trump weaponized law enforcement against civilians and protesters. Trump used immigration enforcement for political purposes and targeting. Trump abused his power repeatedly throughout his term. This is not isolated incidents or mistakes. This is a pattern of abuse of power. This is exactly what impeachment is designed to address. a president who repeatedly violates the Constitution and abuses his powers. The pattern is documented extensively in the articles. The cabinet officials facing impeachment represent an unprecedented scope of removal effort in American history. Having multiple cabinet officials facing impeachment at the same time is extraordinary and shocking. This suggests that Democrats believe the entire administration is corrupt or unfit. This suggests that Democrats are moving to essentially replace Trump's entire cabinet from top to bottom. This is a fundamental challenge to Trump's authority and legitimacy. This is Congress saying the whole team must go. This is unprecedented in scale. The presence of over 70 Democrats calling for Trump's removal suggests real support for these impeachment articles. Over 70 votes is more than enough to pass articles of impeachment in the House. Over 70 votes suggest that impeachment is likely to pass easily, and if impeachment passes, it goes to the Senate for trial. In the Senate, removal requires 2/3 votes, but the fact that over 70 members are calling for removal shows serious support. So what happens next in the constitutional process immediately? The impeachment articles are going to move forward through the House. The House will formally debate the articles. House members will speak about Trump's Iran threats. House members will speak about Trump's abuse of power. House members will speak about the cabinet officials' alleged misconduct. The House will vote on whether to impeach Trump and his cabinet officials. Based on the number of Democrats calling for removal, there is a strong likelihood that the House will vote to impeach. The vote could be very soon. If the House votes to impeach Trump, the case goes directly to the Senate for trial. The Senate will hold a formal trial. Senators will hear evidence about Trump's Iran threats. Senators will hear arguments about whether Trump's conduct violates the Constitution. Senators will vote on whether to remove Trump from office. Conviction and removal requires 2/3 of senators. That is a very high bar. But if the trial shows that Trump violated the Constitution and abused his power, there is a possibility that enough senators will vote to convict and remove him from office. The same process applies to the cabinet officials facing removal. If the House votes to impeach them, the case goes to the Senate. The Senate will hold trials for each cabinet official. The Senate will hear evidence about their alleged misconduct. The Senate will vote on whether to remove them from office. Conviction requires 2/3 votes, but the evidence could be compelling enough. And what is crucial is the constitutional mechanics of removal in this scenario. While impeachment is the tool for removing presidents and cabinet officials, the 25th Amendment provides an alternative path. The vice president and cabinet can declare the president unable to discharge his duties. If the cabinet votes by a majority, the vice president becomes acting president. This is designed for situations where the president is incapacitated, but it could also be used if the cabinet believes the president is unfit and dangerous. The fact that Congress is considering both impeachment and the 25th Amendment shows how serious they believe the situation is. Congress is using every constitutional tool available to address Trump. Congress is not holding back. Congress is moving forward with both impeachment and 25th Amendment considerations simultaneously. Congress is exhausting all options. This is unprecedented in American history. Never before has Congress moved to impeach a president and multiple cabinet officials simultaneously. Never before has Congress moved to use both impeachment and the 25th Amendment at the same time. This is a constitutional moment. This is a moment where the fundamental fitness of the president and his administration is being challenged in the most serious way possible. Trump's presidency hangs in the balance. His administration's future is in doubt. Let me break down the specific constitutional violations that are at the heart of these impeachment articles. The war powers violation is the most immediate and dangerous. Trump threatened to attack Iran without congressional authorization. The Constitution is explicit on this point. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the power to declare war. The president is commander-in-chief, but that does not give him the power to start wars unilaterally. The framers were explicit about this. They wanted the decision to go to war to be made by the legislative branch, not the executive. Trump was planning to ignore this constitutional requirement. He was planning to start a war based on his own authority. This is a fundamental violation of the constitutional order. The militarization of domestic law enforcement is another serious violation. The Posse Comitatus Act restricts the use of the military for domestic law enforcement. This law was passed to prevent the military from being used against American citizens. Trump threatened to use the military domestically. He threatened to use federal agents to suppress protesters. He threatened to use the Insurrection Act to deploy troops. This is a violation of both law and constitutional principles. The military is supposed to protect the country from foreign threats, not be used against American citizens. The abuse of detention and deportation powers is another constitutional violation. The Fifth Amendment guarantees due process and equal protection under the law. Trump's immigration policies targeted specific racial and ethnic groups. This is a violation of equal protection. Trump's policies detained people based on their political beliefs. This is a violation of First Amendment rights. These are not minor issues. These are fundamental constitutional violations. The articles against the cabinet officials are equally serious. Kristi Noem is accused of using her office for personal gain. This is a violation of public trust. Cabinet officials are supposed to serve the public interest, not enrich themselves. The articles cite specific contracts and beneficiaries. The evidence appears to be substantial. Pete Hegseth is accused of mishandling classified information and committing war crimes. The mishandling of classified information is a serious offense. National security depends on protecting sensitive information. The alleged war crimes are even more serious. Ordering military strikes that kill civilians deliberately is a violation of international law. This is the kind of conduct that warrants removal from office. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is accused of abusing his authority to implement dangerous public health policies. The health secretary is responsible for protecting the public health. Kennedy allegedly prioritized ideology over science. He allegedly suppressed research that contradicted his views. He allegedly implemented policies that harmed vulnerable populations. This is a serious abuse of power. The coordinated nature of these impeachment efforts is significant. Democrats are not just targeting Trump. They are targeting his entire administration. This suggests that they believe the problem is not just the president, but the entire team. They believe the entire administration is corrupt and unfit. They are moving to remove all of them at once. The implications of this are staggering. If the House votes to impeach Trump and his cabinet officials, the government will be thrown into chaos. The presidency could be vacant. Multiple cabinet positions could be vacant. The line of succession could be unclear. The constitutional crisis would be unprecedented. But the Democrats believe this is necessary. They believe Trump and his administration are so dangerous that they must be removed immediately. They believe the Constitution requires them to act. They are using every tool available to them. The question now is whether the Senate will convict. Conviction requires 2/3 votes in the Senate. That is a high bar. But if the evidence is compelling enough, it is possible. The senators will have to decide whether Trump's conduct warrants removal. They will have to decide whether the cabinet officials should be removed. The decisions they make will shape the future of the country. This is a moment of constitutional crisis. The country is deeply divided. The impeachment process will only deepen those divisions. But the Democrats believe they have no choice. They believe Trump and his administration are unfit. They believe the Constitution requires them to act. The impeachment articles have been filed. The process is moving forward. The House will vote. The Senate will hold trials. The future of the Trump administration hangs in the balance. This is unprecedented. This is historic. This is a moment that will be studied by historians for generations. The country is watching. The world is watching. The constitutional order is being tested, and the outcome will determine nothing less than the future of American democracy.